Today we are making duck à l'orange. Duck à l'orange, it is a classic French dish that a little bit is weighed down by, that classic French reputation. You have visions of that 1970s platter, and it's in that 1970s Kodachrome photo, and the oranges are so bright, it's so orange, and that almost tells you something already that you kind of don't like about it, which is that orange sauce is too sweet. And we're gonna get into all of that because duck à l'orange is all about the sauce. Most likely, if you've ever had it, you've had a version that is not really the way it's supposed to be. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe you've had it before the right way, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do duck à l'orange. I have my duck, like chickens and turkeys and everything else, it often comes with the neck usually hidden in the cavity. Sometimes you get some bonus stuff like livers or hearts. And we want some more stuff in this duck. So there's a couple things we want to do to prep the duck. The first thing we want to do is take off some of the excess fat. Duck has so much fat in its skin. If you leave it all on, it's just more and more of a mess to deal with while you're roasting the duck. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take the wingette and wingtip portion and I'm going to cut at the joint. Yeah, right through there. This is going to go into my stock. Other thing we want to do is prick the duck's skin only in the fattiest parts. That's going to help render fat more efficiently as the duck is roasting later. So one more somewhat optional thing to do is to blanch the duck before you roast it. It tightens it up naturally, which helps give the duck a good shape at the end. And it maybe gives you a little bit of a jump start on the rendering of the fat because just the skin really kind of gets exposed to the heat quickly. Big pot of boiling water. We're gonna just lower this duck right down into the pot, and I'm gonna keep holding it by its legs. So I really wanna give this bird a chance to drain. It just tightens it up a little bit and gives it a nice even shape. So your duck is less likely to come out of the oven when you roast it with like one leg hanging out over here and the other one bent in like that. Salt this nice and evenly all over. And obviously this duck is wet, so we're just gonna give it at least an hour. You can leave it up to overnight, 24 hours. That's gonna really improve the browning of the skin and the roasting later. The thing with the sauce for duck à l'orange is it doesn't even start with the citrus, it starts with the stock. You have to make a good stock to make this sauce. I have tried to make this sauce with store-bought stock. It just doesn't work. The reason is that the sauce has to reduce down so much and the stock becomes more and more concentrated as you do it. And so any flaws, anything that's not great about that store-bought stock just becomes more and more obvious until you've got this concentrated little pool of disgusting. I'm gonna make a beef stock, and I've got my beef bones right here. Before I do anything else, these bones need to roast. Why do they have to roast? Because I'm making what's called a brown stock. You roast your bones, you roast the vegetables, you get color on them first, you develop a deeper flavor. The truth is you can use a white stock here too, because I'm going to make a stock on a stock using roasted parts from the duck that we're cooking. When you're looking for your beef bones, try to get ones that have connective tissue, meaning ligaments, cartilage, tendons. They are loaded with collagen, and collagen is incredibly tough and chewy. But with long cooking or very high heat cooking in a pressure cooker, that collagen breaks down and it melts into gelatin, and gelatin is soft and silky, and it gives your stock and your sauces this body that you're after. For a long time, I recommended everyone at home, when people ask me about making stocks at home, don't make a beef stock. It's just not worth it. It's a restaurant kind of thing. It takes so many hours. You're much better off at home just doing a really nice chicken stock. But with a pressure cooker, you actually can make a great beef stock at home and in a reasonable amount of time. Let's start roasting these bones. Let's do it. Here are my aromatic vegetables that will go into the stock also. I'm gonna put the bones in. 2.5 hours. That's for beef bones. Chicken, you can do shorter, like an hour or something. And we're just gonna let it go. Our pressure cooker stock is ready. I'm gonna strain it carefully. There's lots of fat on top. Look familiar? I'm doing what I just did, which is making more brown stock, but this time with the duck, because I'm going to make the duck stock using the beef stock as the base, because we're trying to layer this all on. Instaction? This is me in Inception. The walls, the floor. Our duck and aromatics are browned here. Now, check this out. This is why you need a homemade stock for a sauce like this. Do you see that? It's beef jelly. I'm gonna take my roasted duck trimmings and I'm gonna put them in there along with the aromatic vegetables. So while this is already starting to simmer and reduce, I'm gonna be making what's sometimes called a double stock. And when it's reduced by about half, at that point my 2 quarts of beef stock will have become 1 quart of ducky beef stock. Then I will take that and I will reduce that 1 quart down to 1 cup. Now is time for the part of the sauce that gives it its signature sweet and sour flavor. No, I am not talking about the citrus. That, I fooled you. That's the trick. I'm talking about something called the Gastrique. A Gastrique is a very simple thing. It requires sugar and requires some kind of acid, almost always a vinegar. I have red wine vinegar here. Take your sugar, add water to it. It really doesn't matter how much water, you just need enough to dissolve the sugar. And I'm going for kind of a deep mahogany, whatever that means. What does that mean to you? And here we go. So now, you gotta be careful here. It is going to get very active. I've turned off the heat. There we go. If you pour it all in at once, it can be explosive. I'm just gonna start swirling. And as I now add the rest of my vinegar, and now I'm just gonna cook this for a couple minutes to let it reduce a tiny bit, and our Gastrique will be done. Woo! It's pungent. Yeah, it's been a little more than an hour. The duck has, done its thing with its salt, and it's time to cook it. The truth is, a duck is a really easy thing to roast. You kind of can't ruin a duck in a certain way. Duck meat is delicious, even when it's well done. Even the breast meat is delicious when it's well done. So we're gonna go in, high heat. Do be prepared, high heat with duck, the fat starts to render very quickly. It gets really smoky. Brace yourself. So really what has to happen now is we have to reduce our stock down. It'll take a little while. Roast our ducks. That'll take a little while. If you want an internal temperature for the duck, if you need a temperature to aim for, I'll take it all the way up to 175. Well done, it's gonna be delicious. All right, it's time to talk about the citrus.
Can you juggle?
So the thing with duck à l'orange is the orange sauce is actually a sauce, a classic French sauce called sauce bigarade. And sauce bigarade is named after what are sometimes called bigarade oranges. More often you'll see them described as bitter oranges, sour oranges. So most duck à l'orange recipes just have you make a mixture of orange juice and lemon juice and fake the flavor of bitter oranges with that. And in that kind of slow creep that sugar has a way of doing over the years, the sauce has gotten sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. So to get back to the roots, the first thing we need to do is we need to understand what those sour oranges really taste like. They have a really interesting and great flavor and aroma. They're not enjoyable to eat raw. They're truly bitter and sour. Let's see what they're like inside. Moment of truth. Ah, look at that. If you can find bitter oranges, I highly, highly, highly recommend you use the bitter oranges to make this sauce. If you don't, you can use the navel oranges with the lemons. I'm gonna make the sauce, the true sauce in this video, with the navel oranges and the lemons because that's what most of you are gonna have available. I'm gonna take the zest off. You know, a lot of an orange's flavor is really in its zest. You wanna try to get that white pith off, like that. Take your orange zest, stack a few together, and cut a fine julienne. I'm gonna blanch it. I'm gonna want a 50-50 mix of orange juice and lemon juice. Here's our stock, finally reduced way down. And now let's see if we can see, let's see its texture. Ready? Here we go. Look at that, look at that. It's so thick. I'm gonna get a flame under it. In goes our citrus juice. Whoosh. Now we start to introduce the gastrique. You wanna go just a little bit at a time, like 1 teaspoon at a time. I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons and then I'll taste it. There's 1. You don't need more than a 2, 3, 4 teaspoons probably.
There is so much smoke in the oven from there.
Oh, here.
I just want to make sure we don't
Burn the ducks. Oh, good call, Joel. Butter. Whisk, 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 whisk. And the butter should just emulsify right into the sauce. And now finally my blanched citrus zest garnish goes in. A little pinch of salt. A little bit of pepper. Look at the viscosity. Look how you can run your finger right through the back and look how it just holds that line. It just glazes the meat. Wow. What's so great about this, when you make the sauce right, is you have the richness of the roast duck and the fattiness of the duck skin and fat. And the sauce is rich too, but it's got this like laser focused tartness from the vinegar, from the gastrique, and from the citrus that just like, whoosh, it's such a great contrast and it's not cloying at all. And it kind of tastes like the holidays.